Welcome to another session of Ebenezer GATE coaching class. This is a problem that appeared in GATE 2015. It is a multiple choice question for 2 marks. Let me derive the response y of t for a second order system and then solve this problem. Now, the transfer function of a second order system is generally written as omega n squared by a square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n squared. So if the input is unit step, then the output will be y of s will be 1 by s multiplied by t of s. So it is omega n squared by s squared plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n squared. So this can be written as 1 by s minus s plus 2 zeta omega n divided by s square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n squared. Now this is actually 1 by s minus s plus zeta omega n plus zeta omega n divided by denominator can be written as s plus zeta omega n the whole squared. So when you write s plus zeta omega n the whole squared, you get s squared plus 2 zeta omega ns plus zeta squared omega n squared. But here you have only omega n squared, so we'll have to subtract that zeta squared omega n squared minus omega n squared zeta squared. So let me write it here. So y of s is actually 1 by s minus s plus zeta omega n divided by, let me put omega d as omega n into root of 1 minus zeta squared. So omega n squared minus omega n squared zeta squared will be omega d squared. So this is s plus zeta omega n whole squared plus omega d squared minus zeta omega n by s plus zeta omega n the whole squared plus omega d squared. And we know that s by s squared plus a square's inverse Laplace transform is cos at, and a by s squared plus a squared inverse Laplace transform is sin at. So in this case, instead of a you have omega d, and instead of s you have s plus zeta omega n. When you have s replaced by s plus a, then the inverse Laplace transform will be multiplied by e power minus at. So using these two properties of inverse Laplace transform, we will write y of t is 1 by s inverse Laplace transform is y minus e power minus at is minus 6 omega n t this is cos omega dt. Again here e power minus theta omega n t. You need omega d on top, so I divide by omega d. Zeta omega n into omega. So omega d, if I take the inverse Laplace transform, it is sin omega d t. I hope you understand why I divide by omega d, because I need omega d on top, because omega d by s square plus omega d squared only, its inverse Laplace only is sin omega d. So I divide by omega d, and omega d is omega n times, so omega n by omega d is actually 1 by root of 1 minus zeta square. I bring it outside, so this becomes 1 minus e power minus sigma zeta omega n t by root of 1 minus zeta squared. Here you get 1 since the cos omega dt plus zeta sin omega t. So this is actually 1 minus e power minus zeta omega n t by root of 1 minus zeta squared cos omega dt minus phi, because cos omega dt minus phi will be cos omega dt cos phi plus sin omega dt sin phi. So you have sin omega dt here, cos omega dt here, and root of 1 minus zeta squared can be considered as cos phi, and zeta can be considered as sin phi, and tan phi will be theta by root of 1 minus zeta squared. So this is the equation, and let us compare it with the question. So here this is what is given: 1 minus 2 by root 3 e power minus t cos root 3 t minus pi by 6. So this is omega d, and zeta omega n is 1. So we use these two and then find out what are the values of omega n and zeta. Once you know omega and zeta, we can actually get the equation. So we have e power minus t, implying zeta omega n is 1 and omega d is equal to root 3, implying omega n root of 1 minus zeta squared is equal to root 3. So you square this equation, you will get omega n squared into 1 minus zeta squared equal to 3. Here if you square, you will get zeta squared omega n squared equal to 1. Add these two equations, you will get omega n squared. If you add these two equations, this will imply sigma zeta squared omega n squared plus omega n squared minus omega n squared zeta squared is equal to 4. Otherwise, omega n squared equal to 4. If omega n squared is equal to 4, zeta squared will be 1 by omega n squared, which is 1 by 4, implying zeta is root of that, which is 1 by 2. So zeta is 1 by 2 and omega n squared is 4. So T of S is omega n squared by S square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n squared. We have found omega n squared as 4. 4 divided by s square s squared plus zeta is 1 by 2. 2 zeta is 1. Omega n is 2. So it is 2s plus 4. So the answer is 4 by s square plus 2s plus 4. Let us see which is the option that is matching. The option that is matching is D. Thank you. God bless you.